It's 295. Noukky's here. All roads lead to London. How is everybody doing? Noukky, how is your week?
My week has been a tiny bit eventful. I've been sick since the beginning of the week, and I'm just starting to recover, so that's nice.
Oh, good. Glad you're feeling a little bit better. Got to be talking to Noukky about London's upcoming matches, how the offseason went, maybe some other stuff. Who knows? We'll see what we get up to. Yiska, it is. I don't know what time it is for you. How are you feeling? What's up?
Tired. Coping with maybe the least obnoxious way to start a podcast ever on rhythm. On a rhythm like that was Blueface style, if that means anything to you. Offbeat?
Nope.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you're basically like a 75-year-old soul caught in a 25-year-old body at a biological age of 35. So
Probably older. The
soul or the body part?
Both. Probably. I've been told by multiple people that I give off 40-year-old vibes. Is that something you both kind of align with? Is that how you see me?
Like
40-year-old
like
at heart?
looks or like at heart?
I've been told just based on my voice, based on like the way that I look, like how I carry myself. They're like, yeah, you seem older. I also get that people think I'm short.
Yeah,
I give off short guy vibes.
You definitely give off short guy vibes, but
I don't like
40.
This is not the vibes I'm trying to.
I will say, like, yes, the General Joe is like 40-year-old vibes, but I know the rating Joe, the WoW rating Joe, and that's a different type of Joe.
It exists.
Oh,
is it like the 16-year-old vibes? Like
closer, definitely a lot more frustrated and jaded with the world. That's for sure.
I mean, it could go either direction, right? Like
gaming does.
Jaded with the world could also be like the 80-year-old vibes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Joe yells at Cloud, something like.
There's a lot of Cloud yelling. There's a lot of Cloud yelling in Overwatch too. I don't know how many times I got to shake my fist and be like, stop it, don't do this. I'm so frustrated. The rail runs remember hero pools. But anyways, 295 is here. It's going to be a doozy. We got a lot to talk about. Junker Queen's crazy, busted. Is she though? I don't know. Clickbait. Anyways, 295 is brought to you by our beautiful, beautiful patron producers that make the show possible. So thank you so much to Battle Crab, Refine Bean, Bronze Bamboo How, Picasso, Chris R34444, Kashi67, Lotion, Porchap Sammy, Rexane, Volamel and Sugar High, I am DRW, Brother, Adam L, Sagi Fumi, Ice M Jello, Fire Element 6, AK, and Chris R. Noukky. You're here.
Hello.
We're hanging. What's up?
That's like I'm one of those people that can't really like do something if you like ask me open-ended questions like that. Like, if you want to ask me questions, go for it. But like, what's up?
Joe is just maxing out Riz today. Like maxed out Riz today, Joe.
Listen, you know, it's
I'm a very practical person. Okay.
No, I know. Talk to me a little bit about. Let's start off 2023 coming into the preseason. We didn't get to kind of touch base with you on London's building process. So that is definitely something that has intrigued me because last year, Cinderella season, magical, so successful. Nobody saw it coming.
Peak of peaks.
I mean, I don't know. Was it? I'll leave that for you to describe. But obviously not a ton of changes. And that is always something that I think, and I won't speak for Yiska, but that's always something that I think is always hesitant when you come into the next season. There's not a ton of changes. The league always seems to kind of level up in terms of skill. And this season definitely was not any different when it comes to NA. So what did that kind of period in the Overwatch League look like for you?
Yeah, offseason was actually pretty quick for us. We discussed with Chris and Commander X like pretty early into like playoffs, like what things we would like to change and like what we think the pain points are, what we thought the pain points are.
Okay.
And they had a pretty clear idea of like how they wanted to fix it and who they wanted to recruit. So it was just a matter of executing it from my end because they were really like adamant about, hey, I want these two players. Like, can you make it happen?
So spoiler, looking behind the curtain a little bit. I spoke with Lethal recently. We had an interesting conversation about like his journey to the league, what life was like for him. I don't know if Yiska has seen that draft in his inbox yet, but some esports lore in there as well, which I thought was very fascinating. How does Lethal kind of fit where does his jigsaw piece fit within the London Spitfire mold? What does he bring to the table in terms of like maybe intangibles? What was that like?
He's definitely a very creative person. Like he is somebody that like always throws out ideas, likes to be involved in like strat discussions, like throws out like the curveballs. What if we play this weird comp? What if we like execute this strat, etc. That I see him and Chris like going back and forth at times, and like him and the team as well, where they would think that he's crazy with something and then not really try it out, and then other times they do, and then it's just a really interesting dynamic that I didn't think would happen that much.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is of course a rookie, and in my experience, like the rookies usually are a tiny bit more reserved.
Right,
But he just goes for it. Like he's a very extroverted person, which is fitting really well in the team because most of the other guys in the team are more like introverted and like non-confrontational.
Is he still experiencing some stage fright in terms of playing in the Overwatch League? Because like watching contenders and then so far, it's like there's still a couple of percentages that he's removed from his contenders performance, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty normal thing to have if it's your first season in Overwatch League, right? Like I cannot speak for him like personally, of course, but it's definitely something that you need to get used to a tiny bit before like stepping into like the role completely, I feel like.
Yeah. It only makes sense. It's a big stage. There's a lot of demand there.
A lot of eyes on you, a lot of like changing of situation, like going from like his dorm in the university that he went to like to a team house is also an interesting thing, and like seeing how much work ethic other people put in. Like it's a lot of pressure for somebody that comes out of like just freshly going to college, just like stepping into the league.
Yeah, that's
it's weird. It's got to be definitely something to affect your performance. What's kind of like just jumping out at my mind was this ESPN clip that came out recently that I think it was on First Take that they were talking about like, oh yeah, the players in Miami, it's so hot and it's gonna make them worse, and I'm like, I don't know about that one. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe to some degree, but maybe is that worth talking about? I don't know. But random thought. Anyways, tangent. Yiska.
Yeah. No, that's the this interesting part. Like even thinking about last season, and we kind of like I didn't want to fall into that discussion, but like it felt like even last season, despite it being perceived as a total like overperformance or max performance of a roster that was like really under-resourced in essence, there were still matters where like you guys were in scrims, you probably underperformed at the actual tournaments then. I felt like there were definitely matters you had a chance to win the tournament. So that's the interesting part, specifically like whenever like the Rhine stuff worked really well. Like that, it felt like maybe not stage one. I think that was a little more shaky, but like later on, those matters.
Like stage 2 was so good.
Yeah, or even like Junker Queen, you had some peaks there. Like it felt like, as wild as that sounds, that still wasn't like maxing your individual performance or like the theoretical performance you could have had, right? And
yeah.
That's really exciting to think. Like I talked to Spilo recently, and he said like, it's like you guys were just like super underrated in general on the individual player performance part, and I feel like to a large degree that's still happening with Lethal, because the Lethal that I saw in contenders, like let's say he actually hits 100% of his performance. That's someone you can talk about as a theoretical like candidate for Rookie of the Year. Maybe not just yet,
Yeah.
So.
I think the point we haven't hit the point yet where it just like clicks, if that makes sense. Like if you see our performance at the start of like last season, it was kind of similar where we had like a really slow start in the first stage, and then second stage like something clicked and we just like kept improving from there on out. And I think that thing is still like waiting for to happen with like Lethal and Sky.
Do you think, or do you feel comfortable kind of like diving into like what that was last season? Was it like a communication thing? Was it just like a feeling, like a trust thing? Like if you had to kind of put a label on it, what would you kind of label it as?
It's really hard to put like a specific label on it because like things like team synergy just like
Sure,
don't snap
very,
that hard. I think a thing that we have very well figured out is like a coaching dynamic. Like last year
Sure.
with the 3 coaches and then later on with the 2 coaches, like Chris and Commander X work so well together. Like they're seriously so good when it comes to like building up talent and when it comes to like squeezing potential out of people. And I think that Chris especially like he draws a lot of structure that he has from like traditional sports and like reading from traditional sports coaches. And I think he has a talent of translating it really well to esports.
So it kind of gets into, you know, it sounds like it's more structure, it's more, you know, trying to best communicate so that somebody will listen. You know what I mean? Not that they hear you, but they like listen and they buy into it, right? Is that kind of like a fair translation? Okay.
Yeah, like whenever I talk to Chris or like just general theory stuff, same came through with Spilo. Same thing came through whenever I talked to Commander X. Like I think Spilo had like one of those sentences in there that really like the thing is, if you are probing your team for the magic potion that you have that others don't, it's unfortunately just going to be we do a lot of little things very well consistently. Yeah. And that's like not that sexy, but unfortunately, like if you're like
that's how it goes.
This is the life lesson, right? Like it's like if you're currently like listening to his podcast, procrastinating about like your college stuff, and you're like trying to figure out why are these people so top performing in their respective domains, they're probably just doing the work. You know, it's there's no magic bullets that these guys have figured out, other than like, you know, some like especially about Chris. Like I think he's really strong in theory and it's really always very interested in the ideas behind it that impacted. And I would say, like, despite what I just said, I think there's something magical about being able to foster that underdog mentality and getting people on the same page there. But yeah, I always felt like the second season was going to be the really hard one. And I will also say, theoretically speaking, this is not realistically the best meta that you could have rolled, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's really all over the place right now. We're still like finding the groove a tiny bit, but I'm definitely confident that we will like hit that mark.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything. I think what is interesting is that, you know, in a world, in a post-launch Overwatch 2 world where everybody is still clamoring on about, you know, whether or not you need to blow the bag on a unicorn tank player that can do everything, or you need to facilitate, you know, a growth oriented side flex tank player to play on escort maps like Circuit and Rialto to some degree. It's interesting that you guys have kind of just all in on Hadi, who I think has grown exponentially since kind of entering the league, you know, that 2021 season. Obviously not fantastic, coming in last year, blowing the pants off of everybody. Shocking. If I think that's probably the understatement of the year, kind of shocking the world. But doubling down, tripling down, 3 seasons now. Leaving Hadi as that, you know, starting tank, not really, you know, there's no backup there. How confident does 3 years of experience kind of give you?
I'm actually pretty confident. Like Hadi, from his time in British Hurricane to his time now in London Spitfire, like he developed leadership skills, like a lot. Learning from like different coaches. Like we like. I think Commander X is a really good person to talk about this with. That's the right English, I think. Because he has seen like his growth over the whole like period of time. Where like young Hadi was definitely had a bit of temperament. Like I had to talk him down like sometimes in British Hurricane when he was like disrespectful to people, and then he developed like in 2020 he developed good leadership skills so that we trusted him to come back in Am I in the wrong timeline? Yeah, 2021 he developed good leadership skills. So we asked him back for 2022 and now 2023.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
You got
Maybe
it right.
not.
I think
I got it right.
Yeah, 2021 is his rookie season. Obviously, playing on ping
yes.
wasn't the best ever, but you know, a solid test, foundational to anybody. But you know,
like
really
he's
proved
soaking
himself.
up. Yeah, I feel like he's soaking up so much from like Chris because he like. I think idolize is a strong word, but like he looks up to Chris a lot.
Okay.
And to like how he is leading and his like experience leading, and that like helps him a lot, like developing his own skills.
Can I point you to a memory that I have?
Yeah.
And you tell me how much of this is like Chris's influence on Hadi, or if this is Hadi's personality kind of showcasing itself, right? I want to say it's the third stage. I think it's the summer. Maybe it's no, I think it is. You're live in Toronto. I remember that much. I think you're playing Toronto at home. And Hadi's like trying to get the crowd going. He's talking a little bit of stuff to the enemy team. And I think he's like just knocking out push-ups and he's just trying to like goad on, you know, get the crowd going a little bit. Is that the kind of like the emotional rallying of Christopher, or is that more Hadi kind of coming out there?
Oh, that's 100% Hadi.
Okay.
He like just to clarify, I don't think the push-ups were for the crowd or anything.
Okay.
Like he likes to do exercise before we scrim, in game pauses, like between like when we do like breaks and scrims, just to like keep his heart rate up and keep like basically keep having the performance mode switched on.
Sure.
Like that's his ritual. That's his like, oh, I'm getting ready for this. I'm like totally locked in and we're good to go now. So it was more for himself than to taunt the enemy, but it like kind of lends itself to both, which is why I'm trying to say like it's more his personality than anything.
I'm going to ask a very selfish question for the history buffs out there. Maybe some real ones will remember this. Do you feel like you just like have a knack for recruiting players with like very particular rituals? Do you know who I'm referencing?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm trying to think.
Is this a Bok reference? Like
this is a Bok reference.
This is a Bok reference. Yeah, I mean,
in the year of 2023, I'm referencing Bok, somebody who historically brushed his teeth before every game.
Do people that currently watch Overwatch League know who Bok is? Even
I don't know.
Maybe we've grown out of that generation.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Again, it was selfish. I just wanted to know.
You know, one guy knows, Joe. You know exactly one guy knows.
I think there's
Shout out
probably
to Armo
a few.
again.
a handful of listeners will know the Bok 1 story, in the contender story, and 1, 2, 3, and all the cool things, and F1 or GFE and the corn dogs.
Shout out corn dogs.
That's an old one.
That is an old one.
Yep.
We're just a bunch of old. I'm not the only one that yells at clouds, guys. We're just a bunch of old people. Okay, that's all I'm saying. No, looking at this season, obviously didn't start particularly fantastically. Kind of talk to me a little bit about, you know, why maybe you think, or, you know, is it why haven't the success of last year hasn't necessarily translated immediately? Why do you think that is?
I mean, there's a lot of new factors, right? Like there's new players, there's a new meta, there's like a new hero. Ramada came in like right before the season started.
Sure.
there is new players in the league. There's new team compositions. Like most of the Overwatch League teams, I feel like leveled up their rosters. Like look at Atlanta now. Like
True.
they're slamming. So and I say this in goodwill because I know we have this like tiny rivalry with Atlanta, but like they're cracking it up this year.
It's crazy.
It is. I'm really happy to see like the new people and like the new team compositions doing so well. Like rosters rather. Compositions is weird.
Look, you guys can chill. Like, okay, probably win against Vegas. That's a gimme. Like, it's all good to lose against Mayhem. Next week, you gotta bring your A game. You gotta throw me one. It's against the Titans. I need this one badly.
Yeah, I don't know how up to speed you are on TCP lore, but we have another active sound the alarms. I just need a sound drop to bring this up with guests because we're shameless shilling our own content. But we do have Yiska and I have an active Lord bet that I think that Vancouver will be the London of this season and finish at 7th or above. What do you think about that? What does Noukky thinks?
I think that it definitely do have potential.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see where you're coming from. It's not impossible. I mean, they have to be high rolling like us, basically.
Yes.
I think
that is the bet. Can they high roll enough?
It's gonna be a task with like teams like Atlanta Mayhem. Boston is doing like incredibly well. I don't know what Pre did there, but like it's going there. Like even Washington did have like
bad,
an easier like first few matches so far, but they don't look as shabby as people predicted them to be, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, very true.
Noukky, you gotta understand though, when we made this bet, okay, that's so far ago, so long ago, Dallas was still not announced to go to APAC. Valiant was not announced to go to NA. Like the Iris and fucking Fitz were still on Washington semi, like in like the Schrodinger's fucking superposition of roster, okay? Like then they play Boston Uprising. Immediately Izayaki has an issue. Like because this fucking warlock here is just summoning the evil spirits in order to get this going. Like the Shock is, as far as I know, still in hotels. Okay, whenever that game match is going, like everything is just running in this dude's favor. It's crazy, and it needs to. It's still not a given. It's still not a given that it will come to be. But I'm starting to sweat more so than I thought it initially. So if you guys like, do you scrim Titans right now? And like, what's the scrim record there?
I'm not giving you live scrim bucks here. Hello, like I have a tiny bit of a Jagody at least. Like I know you want to beat Joe, but you know, you gotta have to sit it out. Sorry, bud.
That's for the After Dark episode. That's for not the public's ears. How about that? So obviously,
what about New York, guys? Like where the dark horses on New York?
We'll see,
dude. What if New York wins against Titans?
Yeah,
that would certainly hurt. That would hurt.
Oh, Joe.
What if they're also just late bloomers? Who knows?
True.
Anything's possible. I'm definitely.
Oh, they're on break, right? Like Titans for now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They don't play this week.
They have some spicy matches left. I think Titans like NYXL is whatever, but like Outlaws, Glads, that's spicy.
It is.
What's fun?
What's a little bit more interesting for me is the Battle for Canada. I don't know if that's obviously it has to be next season or not next season, but next stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's
going to be huge.
So sure about Toronto. I think they're severely underperforming. But
I need some help for the meta at this in this case. Like I feel like to be fair, I don't think this is actually like the Titans meta. If you could build one, I think they're like doing pretty well for the meta that they're given, specifically because Punk is not, the guy that you necessarily want on Winston.
No.
So to be fair, I think like in terms of DPS, it's okay, right? Like it could be worse for them.
Just need to wait till the Punker Queen comes back and they're skyrocketing. Like
that's kind of where I'm transitioning this to.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, well, this
next
new
patch.
patch, I don't fucking know, man. Punker Queen's kind of brazy.
Until then, like, I don't know. Like, real talk, like after Mid-Season Madness, this is more than 2 months out. Far more.
Yes, of course.
Like, there's definitely going to be another balance patch, so we don't know.
I would
really,
imagine,
like,
yeah.
Probably, yeah.
What's your take on this? Like, do you feel like this should have been deployed? Do you have any opinions as to when patches should be deployed? What about the argument of like wanting to play the live patch? Like I ran a Twitter poll and folks said like as soon as the patch notes hits like okay, we're going to do this, it should hit OPR and then you guys get to scrim and like the rest of the season should just or like the Overwatch League should always play the latest version. And then Sean Müller came out and said, we're not going to do that. We're going to run the patch that we started with. In my opinion, pretty good decision in terms of competitive integrity. Like, where do you fall on this? What's your preference?
I personally will always like side on the side of competitive integrity because I know like how hard it is on players and coaches to switch a meta, like switch a patch and figure out everything within like the week that they're playing a game, and just putting in a random bye week like that would work if you just put a random bye week in the middle of the season for every team and then you roll a patch out. But I really like having the whole stage on a patch. Maybe the knockouts even this is the other argument that we had like last year where the patch was rolled out for mid-season madness, but it wasn't for the knockout stages, and so the people like the teams that qualified through the knockout stages had a way shorter amount of time to practice on the patch than the teams that pre-qualified for mid-season madness. So it's like a very delicate thing, I feel like, where you want to keep competitive integrity, where like rolling out patches like after like either big events or like a stage. But also you kind of also want to keep the game updated. Like we all remember the like months and months that we had like a certain meta sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's just a delicate balance that you want to hit. But it should never be the solution to just roll a patch out for the tournament realm if you don't have to.
It's also like real talk. It's just folks probably underappreciate how important the respective balance patches are towards which team is how good. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like it's like the best teams, especially now that we have much smaller rosters. Like back then, you were probably capable of adapting to more whatever the meta was going to throw at you. Like look at Fuel, right? Like if you have Hanbin and Fearless, that's the wide range of metas that you can now cover. I'm not super confident, and of course, like Houston has Gargoyles, so they have less of a problem. But imagine a team that only has Fearless. What if now the Junker Queen or the Doom or the Diva or whatever meta comes out and Fearless can't be on the Winston or whatever, right? It's inevitably going to mess with the carry potential of individual players, and it unfortunately now has become a big part of the gamble of hitting your meta. I feel like a team that's suffering a little bit from that is definitely Toronto. I think you guys probably are okay. Like, I think Hadi is a good Winston. It's not like the pick where he is miles ahead of everyone in the league, right? Like, you ideally would want the Ryan meta, as memey as that probably is to you guys. But I think, like, if you just look at the skill distribution, there are more Winstons in NA that probably outperform Hadi on Winston than they are on Ryan. So ideally, you'd want that at least on that position. And then in terms of DPS, I think you're really flexible this year. So that isn't as big of an impact. And then backline, pretty much the same thing. So like I think for you guys specifically, it's probably always going to be like, what does the main tank roll into? And there, like Hadi has displayed actually a pretty wide range of ability. I think, like in my mind, when I think what is the meta that Hadi can carry on, probably going to be Reinhardt. I think that like he's definitely, if he's not the best, he's tied for the best Reinhardt in the league for right now. But also Junker Queen. I think Junker Queen is
he was so good.
Is another pick where like I think he's elite on. So whenever, like I think if Chris saw those pageant shows, like he was probably pogging, and then when he saw that you're not going to deploy that was probably less exciting. Even though I think if I have Chris right, I think he generally also favors competitive integrity over like individual luck. But yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like we're not seeing Junker Queen right now. I feel like if anything, in the last few matches, we're seeing an increase of it. I think maybe Dallas, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, has a lion's share of that playtime increase. But even Junker Queen, Ramatra are all kind of, I think a lot of teams are kind of just like getting off the Winston train if they can't necessarily have like a carry player at that position. They're just like, foot off the gas. We're just going to like reinvest into something else. We're going to like start running Junker Queen. We're going to, and that was kind of something that was a little interesting coming out of like week 1. Definitely seeing an increase there. So I think it's within the realm of possibility. Again, I'm not asking for leaks, but I think it's in the realm of possibility that we see London kind of bring this out week 3, week 4, week 5, and, maybe pull off some upsets. Hopefully not against the Baker Pretends.
100%, like just to spite you, and then like Sky has like his revenge story,
True,
we have reasons.
Ooh, there's a revenge story, Joe. Are you scared?
I mean, a little bit, but,
I mean, we busted out the Junker a tiny bit. I think we played against Washington, so like we're comfortable on that matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think is going to potentially kind of influence itself, and maybe will be something we'll get into. I do want to kind of try to get some predictions. I don't know if we'll get to all of them today, but we'll get some predictions from our beautiful panel of judges towards the end of the episode.
I love some hot takes.
And to be fair, I don't want you to feel pressured. We didn't kind of discuss this beforehand. If you don't want to give any kind of like takes on and predict any teams outside of your own, don't feel,
I'm just saying that I'm number 1 on the Spitfire leaderboard right now. Like we posted about it today. I have 7 points, man.
Like, y'all gotta catch
up.
Wait,
really? How many points?
I mean, I have 7. I have 7 points, but we also don't do all the matches. Okay. We're doing I think 4 or 5 matches a week, like the most spicy ones, basically.
Yeah, that's probably more interesting. There's a lot of duds. Not gonna lie. There's a lot of swings and misses. One thing I did kind of have pop in my brain when we were talking about like how good Hadi was last year at Junker Queen in that whole meta. And this is kind of like the hot topic right now, as you see like Super and all the content creators just flipping out about, how busted Queen is right now, and how it's gonna create another, Jotes meta. I somebody who doesn't get enough love, in my opinion, especially last year with Sparkr. What? There was always something on push that was kind of magical that I think Chris and Commander X, really kind of influenced when it came to. I don't think it was necessarily the Jotes meta in particular, but just they seem to have like an early read on push, how to play it, what to do, using their players more so as resources, and I think we're seeing more of that now. Who is Sparkr to this team? This is somebody who I think is probably in the upper echelon of hit scans in NA, but like nobody will just admit it. It's not like that's not a name that just like jumps to the forefront of your mind. So like, who is he to this team?
I think he's one of the anchors of this team, basically. Like him and Hadi are like this dynamic duo that is like motivating everyone, and that is like the really like positive force in the team, which I think people feel like they can rely on. I think that's a really big part of his personality. He is like he's not the most outgoing or loud or like exaggerating person there is, but he's like the like a rock for
Sure.
most of the executions and like team comps, and you can kind of count on him to like pull out a cool flank or like a team fight turning like headshot or something, which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be super, super nice to have somebody that just like runs off and make plays. One of the big ones that I remember from last year was, on being the first season on Overwatch 2. Push obviously is a brand new game mode, and it felt like Chris and Commander X were constantly having Sparkr getting Lucio pockets and then kind of running off on these flanks. How much of that was something that he was actively trying to get them to do? How much was that like pre-planned, and how much was that just like a call on the fly that maybe he's making that's like, hey, pocket me, we're gonna run off through courtyard and I'm gonna go, shoot Kai in the head?
I think he's just that kind of player that really likes to play on these flanks, and then we just put resources in it to help support him.
Okay.
I think it was an intuitive call from like both sides that it's something that he's really good at. It's really hard to, like, before there was the push game mode, I feel like not many maps like favored that kind of thing.
Sure.
That push is like such an open concept that it's really easy to like have that kind of playstyle on those maps.
Oh, agreed. The more that I look at it, the more I find really interesting things about it. I made this tweet not too long ago that I was like, oh, this is like a really interesting replacement for 2CP, because it kind of makes it kind of like scratches the same itch where it's like, I love watching good push. I can't stand playing it. I hated playing Assault in like whenever I would load up Overwatch, and I really don't care for push these days because of how open it is. And when you have players that aren't necessarily the best in the world, when I don't have, funny Astro and, Violet backing me up, shucks, boy, howdy, is it annoying when people flank me. So,
yeah. I think the push game mode, like that's why I really like it, and I'm always the one posting under those people that are like, what's your controversial take with like the guy with the knives on his throat?
Yeah.
I'm always like, I like push. I like watching push. I think it's a great concept, and I always get roasted for it. But
you should.
I feel
you
like
very much should.
I feel like where KOF is a game mode that lends itself to like higher individual skill as a win condition, and different maps lend themselves to like different game modes, and maps lend themselves to strategy being a very, very big part of like win conditions. I think push is unique in itself by lending itself very heavily towards team play as a win condition, which I really, really like as a concept.
Yeah, I mean, if there was ever a team to like really lean on team play and like become more than the sum of their parts, I mean, obviously you look at last year's performance and it's like, yeah, no, London is like the team's team. If you're a fan in the Overwatch League and you need somebody to support, and your traditional sports team, whether it's football, basketball, is like that, you're that team's team, that it's, a family, as much as that gets, bastardized a little bit. It feels like London is that like friendship team. They're running with the heart of the cards. They're sending people to the Shadow Realm. I don't know how many other Yu-Gi-Oh puns I can put in here, but like, yeah, no, this seems like an attribute.
I'm not sure about sending people to the Shadow Realm. Like,
I mean,
where does that come from? Isn't banishing people like Heart of the Cards is one thing, and like winning with friendship and stuff, but where does the Shadow Realm come in here, Joe?
I'm not gonna lie, I think it's Yu-Gi-Oh. Now you have me questioning my own pop culture references.
That's your demonology in order to get Titans to win that
match. Send down to the Shadow Realm so Titans win. Got it.
No. It has nothing to do with sending you guys to the Shadow Realm. It's how much you like. You guys were sending like Atlanta to the Shadow Realm last year, so it's like, maybe a push and pull. Anyways, I don't know, guys.
We're getting really weird out here right now with our like analogy.
We're getting a little occultish, and I'm feeling uncomfortable. No, but there is something to like this narrative that like London is that like you guys build each other up and you can really kind of challenge each other. Obviously, we saw that last year. How much of that do you think is like true? How much of that is just like, yeah, we actually have just good players, and how much of it is like, yes, I think these players, out of as many as you've worked with, just mesh with each other really well. The coaching staff meshes with them extremely well. Like, where does that balance kind of sit?
I think you hit the nail on the coffin there. I think like the type of players we have, just like it's just puzzle pieces that fit well together. Like there is, of course, like everybody has their like individual skill and like high skill ceilings and stuff, but we kind of managed to find a set of players where they can enhance their own like personal skill by like playing together. It always, like, from the start, when you started scrimming in 2021, not 2021, 2022, and got everybody in the team house and like had this whole like roster shuffle with only like Hadi, Sparkr, like actually being there, it was it was really interesting to see like how this all like came together, and how this all like build itself up over time to where everybody was like super comfortable with each other, like joking around the whole time, and like nudging at each other's shortcomings till like people kind of iron them out.
Do the guys still work out together?
Yeah. Hadi goes to the gym at 5 a.m. sharp.
Damn.
Hadi and Sparkr.
That grind set.
Funny story. I had one of the League players complain, not like Overwatch League, but like League of Legends players. We had somebody be like, "Oh, there's this one person in my house that is really loud at 5 a.m." and then go fuck, it's probably like Hadi getting ready for the gym. Maybe I should tell him if he like watches the video, maybe like wait till he's outside to do that.
He's scrolling Instagram reels at 5 a.m. waking up.
Some David Goggins.
It's like, bro, come on.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's this whole dynamic with where like sometimes we have to like mix players in team houses in our like facilities, and then you mix League of Legends players that are up till 3 a.m.
True.
with Hadi that gets up at 5 a.m. and gets to sleep early, and it creates like very difficult dynamics sometimes.
I bet, yeah.
Is Lethal indoctrinated into that gym going mafia yet? We
kind of try, but
Okay.
him and Sky are still a tiny bit resistant to it. The rest of the guys, like we get them to go on our traditional walks together at least, which is really nice.
Nice.
We usually take like when we have our lunch break, we like take a walk together and then have lunch. About like 15-20 minutes. And we have the same like tradition, like after matches, like to discuss things. And they're chiming along. They're getting there. Sky's not a big fan of the gym, which is fine. As long as he participates in other team activities and doesn't like shut himself off, I'm like happy with it.
Yeah. Get that. Not for everybody, you know. You got to get your activity out somewhere else. Then it's definitely something you gotta do. So
I really like integrating that as a part of our like team culture, having like time outside together, getting some vitamin D.
I mean, yeah, it's something that is good for you, and it's good for discussion. You know, I think it's interesting. I have to imagine, and maybe you can speak on this, but having an activity like that is a little bit more active probably lends itself to approaching discussions in a more productive way, not in a nicer way, to be very clear. Because I think there is a misconception when it comes to the fan base that like a lot of these players are just like nice to one another. And that's not always the case. It's not about being nice. I think Yiska has talked about on the show quite a bit about you know, like healthy friction, you know, like healthy, you know, you do need to kind of butt heads a little bit to kind of progress. And I have to imagine that like doing physical activity while you kind of approach or orbit those conversations probably is a little bit easier, right?
I mean, it always depends on your definition of nice. If nice means that you shouldn't criticize each other and that you shouldn't disagree with each other on anything, then definitely not nice. Like too many people try to live like a very like non-conflict, like conflict-free communication and lifestyle, and I think that's a that's a pretty big mistake when you wanna like interact with other human beings, because discussions, disagreements, learning each other's points of views, and especially like getting a wider scope of like understanding certain things and like how people think about them, just enriches your experience in life. Like, I'm a person that never shied away from like disagreeing with someone, having a discussion just for the sake of having a discussion. Like, I'm a contrarian sometimes. Like, I sometimes push people to like have a discussion with me where I take the counterpoint, even though I don't like necessarily I'm 100% on that side.
Yeah.
Just because I like to see like people's reasoning for things, people's points of views, and like having the knowledge that they have, basically.
No, it's kind of the fun of conversating, right? Is having those kind of discussions and getting to the root and disarming anybody who is like, oh, well, we can just do it your way. It's like, well, no, why do you think that? Like, really getting to the root of like what you're trying to say, what the merits of the points you're trying to put across. And yeah, I don't know. There's always something. I have this like speaking of League of Legends, I have this like very like clear mental image of that like Team Liquid documentary where they're all like with like Loco Doco and like Dardoch and they're all like screaming at each other.
Oh, that one.
It's just like I wonder how this dynamic changes if we were like out doing something, and it's like hot ones but walking, you know?
Hot ones but walking.
Because I think that's the magic of that show. Well, yes, you don't need it to be like sweltering, but like just getting out and doing something, I feel like does something to that filter where it's like you're more open to approaching things in a more constructive way, because like your body's like moving and it's grooving, but like you have something else to kind of like get whether it's anxiety or whatever bad feel of the day it is. I feel like there's like something to like disarming your own biochemistry. I feel like
it's also about getting creativity rolling, right? And
sure, yeah,
I think like that's not just scientific. I think there's also I'm trying to remember this. I think it's a Socrates quote about like thought happening while walking, not running. And I think that makes a ton of sense. I have a classic TCP tangent, Joe, because
go for it.
And it kind of feeds into the same point, which is there's a Nobel laureate called Daniel Kahneman. Okay. And you might know him maybe from his book, Thinking Fast and Slow. But that's not what he's about right now. Like, the big thing that he wants everyone to take from his work is this concept of adversarial collaboration. Okay? So basically, the concept came when like his wife is in the same field, and they disagreed on a subject, and then they disagreed for years, and eventually they said, "Okay, we got to sit down and we got to craft this like experiment, and we agree on the parameters of the experiment, and whatever comes out like." Is right. And then they sat down and then they agreed on the experiment, and then his wife turned out to be wrong. And his wife goes, and here's a concept he calls the 15 IQ point benefit, is when you are proven wrong, you get 15 IQ points in order to discredit the other party. And she came up with reasons why the experiment they ran actually doesn't prove what both of them believed, and he's like, oh fuck, she's right, like that's actually like the way we set it up. So they ran a second experiment, now he's wrong, 15 IQ point benefit comes up, they once again have to agree, the way we set up this experiment doesn't work, and they've been going on for decades on the same subject, they still don't agree on the subject, on the point, but by them having this adversarial collaboration, their points just got way more sophisticated. They understand their own points better, but like basically everyone has gained, but nobody has really arrived at a new destination. So I feel like that's very often what's going on in teams where like you can have two concepts on how to play the game, and both of them can be right at the same time, but by adversarially collaborating against each other, individual quality of those conceptions also improves, because everyone like the most important thing, Joe, I will go through torture. I will do everything in my power. I will wake up in the middle of the night. I will drag myself through colds just in order to be right.
I know. We've had lengthy discussions in the 6 years that I think we've both been covering this godforsaken esport.
Might be longer even. Yeah.
Probably. Maybe for you, less for me. About how much you would love to just be proven right. You would gladly give your own life as long as you knew in your death rattle, God whispers in your ear, "You were right. You're right all along." He would die happy. He would die a pleasant, happy German little boy.
Yeah.
At heart.
Yeah. No,
and I believe it. I believe it.
There are arguments, like for instance, this meta is a gamble thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just die on this hill, Joe. Like people have been killing me over this shit. I didn't just die on this hill. I set a respawn point, a mobile respawn point on top of this fucking hill. And
you got a rally point, and you're just sending dying,
dude. Like, and I feel like we're finally arriving at a point of view where people accept it. Like I recently, I had my own YouTube channel for a while, and in 2019, it's like when the best teams are gamblers. Mm-hmm. I was watching that back. I'm like, I snapped on that shit. I was so right.
It's you know that you can't win an argument against the internet, right? Like, there's always that one person that will disagree with you. Like, even if it's just for trolling, there will always be that one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, the worst is when the person is like, right enough. And you're like, fuck. Fuck. Yeah.
They're right enough, but then they don't want to have a conversation. And then you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
You don't do anything with that.
Those are never fun. Where it's like, no, but like let's hash this out. Like I'm amped. I want to talk about this. And they're like, nah, you're just like not smart enough. I'm like, frustrating. I did want to kind of circle back to what Yiska was talking about with like the 15 IQ point like benefit, and like how team dynamic and culture can really influence, your performance. You've been in the space for years, both as a player, as a manager, whatever. TO as well. Shout outs to the real ones. You've of course, across that kind of experience, you had to have seen your fair share of teams that were a little too nice to one another, teams that were a little too adversarial, and possibly a great middle ground that can kind of like influence and help, teams kind of flourish.
Yeah.
If you had to kind of pick one extreme, which one do you think if you had to like choose? A team that's too polite and too nice and doesn't want to kind of create any friction, or a team that's just a little too prone to friction and we're rage quitting scrims, an hour in?
Ooh. I think it's easier to get the people with more friction to understand each other than to get the people with less friction to create the friction.
Okay. Again, I think that is like I think if you walked people through the like examples of traditional sports and like what that really means and what really goes on, I think they'd be more open to that. But I think there's a lot of people who would knee jerk and be like, oh no, I severely disagree. I think that, having a healthy environment.
I can actually give a really good example.
Okay, let's hear it. If you're willing to share.
Oh yeah, of course. Like, I have experience with this through Haffi. Haffi, when he was in Fnatic, like very, very early days, again, like a name that like some of the viewers might not know, but on the first iteration of British Hurricane, we had a player named Hafficool, and he had a really bad reputation from his time in Fnatic with like people like Buds and like that whole squad.
Yeah.
For like being a rager, for being like somebody that is like rage picking things because he's like frustrated with his teammates and stuff, like in official matches. And I want to say he was in Hurricane for almost like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Over that time, like he developed as a person when it came to like how to give correct feedback. I did exercise with him where I was like picking out sentences from scrims that he said and asking him like, what do you think was bad here? Like, how do you think like people could understand your point better, or like wouldn't get frustrated with you while talking. And these are things that I feel like can be taught even like to stubborn people, or can be like taught to like people that have issues with that.
Mhm.
But having players that are having trouble like arguing with each other, or like talking in general, and like are very like unconfrontational, is really it's harder to like push them in a healthy way
Sure.
to let these things out. It's better the other way around, in a healthy way. Of course, you can always like push somebody hard and like maybe kind of break their mental a tiny bit, but that's like a big no for me, because it can like backfire really hard.
Yeah, 100%. When you stress somebody out like that, it has to. I think it requires a lot more of them emotionally, and I think you would probably run the risk of like them facing a lot of exhaustion because they're trying to be a little bit more confrontational. Like the real question, if we were to reword this, because that's like my new favorite thing, is like rewriting what the question actually is. It's asking somebody to step out of their comfort zone versus having somebody well within their comfort zone, just turning down the volume a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's more of like a principle of life where it's like doing too much of something, it's easier to dial it back than to really dial it up, because you run into like the starting problem, like you run into like analysis paralysis. There's so many hurdles to actually like starting something, whether it be working out, dieting, grinding Overwatch, doing your studies. I don't know why, but these last 2 episodes have been like weirdly philosophical, but I'm here for it. And I think it's easier if you are already doing it, maybe doing it too much, and you can kind of dial it back. And I think that's just something like a pattern that I've seen throughout life. And it's, again, I think it's something that the community doesn't necessarily hear a lot of insight on. So shout outs to you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a really cool story. Yiska, are we adversarial? Do we collaborate?
I think on some things.
I think so.
Yeah, I think like whenever it gets to like cheesy gameplay, when it gets to push being good, when it gets to
okay, let's not
sitting.
necessarily.
I know
That's me dying on that hill. I take that.
I don't think it's like good is a little subjective. I'm learning to appreciate it. Is that more palatable for you?
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I actually don't mind playing it that much.
Really?
Yeah, because most people don't understand really how to manipulate or like rotate into high grounds, so they are just free pickings all the time, and it's like really fun, especially if you're playing soldier a lot.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
We should make it the first map of each series, and then have it like twice if it goes to best of 5. That's my hot take.
That's the crazy part. Like apparently 4 teams in the league haven't played push this year. Like
see?
True. Yeah. If there's that many 3-0s, that would make a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we see Vegas play push? That's the real 100% world record video. Will Vegas play push this year? That's one for the history books.
That's a nice way to say, like, will Vegas like win maps?
It's true. Yeah. Will they? I think they
stop being so unconfrontational.
Yeah,
like,
right.
We just talked about this, and you break the rules already.
Joe is king fence sitter on some issues, and then not on others. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I'm
used to him stirring the pot. That's why I'm so.
Really?
It depends.
Tiny bit.
Am I a pot stirrer? Oh shit.
I mean, sometimes you're basically like
But it's Yiska's pot.
You're charging it up.
True.
And then like sometimes you just let it out, and then the head of the Overwatch League has to tell you to relax.
Based. Okay, for those, I won't get into like the details of what that is, but for those who do remember, I need everybody to know that I was taking a shit while I tweeted that. Just want everybody to know, hey, maybe you finish your shit before you send the tweet. You know, maybe you get some clarity. That's all I'm saying.
Were you writing the Prophets article on the Locust as well?
No, that was probably a 5 a.m. like fever dream type beat where I thought I was saying things and I wasn't saying things carefully enough, I should say.
So like the opposite of a shower thought, if you think about it. It's like
I was going for post nut clarity.
You just
That was just me. Post shit clarity, baby.
yeah. Post shit clarity. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, for anybody who remembers that, yeah, there's some lore there. We are kind of coming down into the pipeline, so I do want to kind of get a little bit of predictions. I'm going to assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Noukky, I'm gonna guess you probably don't have a great read or have not seen too many APAC games. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's very fair to say.
Okay,
I'm keeping up with the standings. Like I'm watching the Overwatch League like page sometimes,
Sure.
especially if my social media manager asks me for predictions. Then I'm like, oh, he's asking me for those two teams. They're this standing, they're this standing. I know a few people on this team. Like, oh yeah, I think the lower team has a chance. Let's go.
Okay, there you go.
So that's my extensive knowledge of APAC.
Beautiful insights. Thank you, Noukky. Back to the desk. No, I feel like these are a little bit more palatable, especially if you just look at the standings. We're gonna start off with the Seoul Dynasty in APAC versus the Hangzhou Spark, a team that many are considering kind of near super team. Any thoughts there? Do you think that Seoul has a chance?
I need to look up real quick if that was one of the things that my social media manager asked me, because
Oh no.
if I say something different now, I can look like a fraud.
That's the smart thing to do. Just bury the wrong answer.
Was it Infernal versus Spark, you said, right?
No, it's Dynasty versus Spark.
Dynasty versus Spark. Okay, yeah, he asked me for Infernal versus Spark. I know it was one of the Soul teams, so I wanted to double check before I said this on a broadcast, and then I did this on Twitter and get the point. So they're gonna say I'm like faking it, you know? Yeah, I think versus Spark. I don't have an opinion. I would gamble this one, probably. So let's just go for Spark. Whoa.
That's the safe one.
Yeah.
Joe's about
always
to
the safe one.
Like
in the Infernal Spark one, I picked Infernal because I think Infernal has a shot.
there we go.
I don't hate that at all, especially if
this is
you have your ear to the floor.
This is a 2-0 Infernal week, Joe. Yeah, I like Jimmy who?
You think so? You think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know about Charge.
Yeah, Charge is kind of on a heater. Charge is severely impressing me, and I need to fine-tooth comb some of their gameplay because Piggy is fucking.
Piggy is going through the roof right now. Unless he's like getting some bad mental this week, I don't think that Infernal has a chance.
He's about to get magged.
Oh, the mag hammer. Mag hammer's coming down. I appreciate somehow, some way that you've become a Philadelphia Fusion fan.
I know. Scrimbox build.
Oh,
fair enough. We know you're the commissioner of the stock exchange, so that fits the bill.
Look, I'm also big hoping after they lost narrowly to the other Soul team, and I'm just like completely saying this was all LAN, and that's the reason.
I think it was. I really do think it was. I think that if I'm going to be completely honest, and this is not me just like profit hatering, because I think people know that like I think he's the GOAT. I think he, yada yada yada. I think he's a very, very good player. So this isn't like me on like some hate pill. I don't think Dynasty's particularly good. I think they are kind of poop.
I think that's true, and also like I think my take is justified if you watch the last map between those two teams. I've never seen such a toss like that. Like
both hands.
The last fight tilted me into oblivion. I saw theft of my pick-and points like go frame by frame. It was insane. Like 5 people had to collude, toss it into the toilet in order for that fight. Like Profit was the only thing that kept this team in the game. They kill Profit before the fight. It's 4v5. They have an ult advantage, and they somehow toss that shit. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. I've never seen anything thrown as hard as that. That was some quarterback shit, dude. Like
it is seriously one for the history books. Definitely one of the games of all time. I agree that Profit probably did quite a bit of deadlifting. not super. I wouldn't guess like statistically, but like just in feeling wise. I do have to give some credit to Belisari, even though I don't think he had a great game. I think he had a couple of like good moments where it's last second on Oasis Gardens and he comes out on Doomfist and he gets a 3K and he just kind of like wins the fight for them. It's like, okay, well, like that's, if you can hone that, that's a great thing. But like, I don't think he particularly looks comfortable on Winston. He kind of seems like a ball player, but regardless, yeah, I think Infernal has like big potential. I don't think that Dynasty game really kind of set the tone the right way for the community. So feel there's room for this to really be a 2-0 week for them. But Yiska, did you give your prediction for Dynasty Spark?
I forgot what I predicted, but it's Spark. Like I'm not sure about the score, but yeah.
Would agree. Probably a 3-0. I think both games in APAC are probably 3-0s.
Do we want to speed run real quick?
Yeah, we'll speed run through them all, and then we'll do a little closer. So, Noukky, you said Spark, correct?
I said Spark.
Yiska says Spark.
Right.
I say Spark.
Right.
Dallas or Shanghai? Noukky, what do you got?
Oh God, why are we doing APEC?
It's just the top of Liquipedia. I'm not even gonna cap.
Oh God, probably Shanghai. I'm giving it to Shanghai.
Oh, spicy. Okay.
There's a chance.
It is unfortunately not that like as one-sided as I thought it would be, but I give it to Dallas.
I think Dallas. I think they found their footing with Junker Queen. I agree with all of the big brain Andys in the YouTube comments that are like, if you're not playing Winston, you're trolling.
Dude,
I agree.
Shanghai kind of turned it though, like
good.
recently. Like that team, for some reason, within 3-4 days, just turned it around. Like it's.
I'm not convinced just yet. I don't think Dynasty are particularly good, so I could be wrong, but I'm gonna trust in Hanbin.
Sure.
Somebody writing this down. I wanna be able to be like to slide it in Joe's DMs after Shanghai wins.
Sure.
Hey, listen. If I get this wrong, I'll meme video myself. I'm not gonna eat another shoe because that actually took too long. So
okay.
I'll do something.
Wait.
Yeah, I ate a shoe. I ate a shoe because I said that if Atlanta doesn't win Pro-Am, I'd eat a shoe, and then they got knocked out by Glads in round 1, and then I ate a shoe. So there you go.
Somehow missed that. I don't know how, but I somehow missed.
I'll send it to you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
I think this is a gimme. London, Paris, London, Vegas. It's bad habits. Okay, guys. Frenchies.
I will not comment on our own matches. I think.
Okay. Fair enough.
Nice.
I'll comment though. 3-0 London.
Yeah. 3-0 London. What about Florida Valiant?
That's a Florida sweep.
That's a Florida sweep.
Sweep. Oh, and then
now we get to Houston, Atlanta. That's gonna be the spicy one.
Joe, it's like people are saying like 3-0 Atlanta, and I'm feeling like I'm watching a different.
No.
I'm feeling like I'm watching a different game. Like this might actually.
It could go both ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure. I'm going anti up. I predicted anti up.
I don't hate it. I there are very few. I think the only prediction that I hate at this matchup when it comes to Houston and Atlanta is any kind of 3-0. I think if we see a 3-0, that is going to be. It really doesn't feel like there is a way. I think there are two schools of thought. There are like the Winston truthers, and I think if you are more partial to that, you are probably predding Houston here. If you are more open to other picks, you think the meta is a little bit more fluid. You don't think that Winston is just like the de facto on 90% of points and maps. I think you kind of have to give Atlanta the edge a little bit, especially with like how much they're playing Hawk. I do like Atlanta. I think Houston are kind of on a heater. They are playing very well.
It's always Houstonable as well.
It is definitely very Houstonable. That is for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna go Atlanta 3-2. That's just my take.
I'm going 3-1.
If they go to map 5, Houston is taking it. If they go in map.
All right. I mean, got that veteran experience. So yeah, I hear that.
Joe, come on.
What?
Run it. We
gotta.
You want?
What did you pred?
Wait.
He wants less.
3-1. I already.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you. My bad. Dallas Dynasty. Yeah. Dallas Dynasty. Yiska, what do you got?
That's a hard one. I think. I'm not sure what I predicted. I think I'll go Dallas here.
All right, Noukky.
I'm joining for Dallas.
But
yeah, I don't.
that's one.
I think they might drop a map.
I think
but
that's
I think
also
it
one
does.
where you look at Friday and then adjust your Preds on Saturday.
Oh yeah, yeah. If Shanghai comes out gangbusters and Hanbin looks like a chuckle person, then maybe not a chuckle fuck. That's what I was gonna say chuckle
Whoa.
fuck, but I was like, yo, maybe don't. But they
Okay.
did it, so that's what it is. Yeah, I've
That's the
got
next
Dallas. Infernal Charge.
I'm giving it to Charge.
I gotta go Charge.
Yep. That's a good pick.
They're kind of heating. They're kind of on a bender. Yiska, what do you got?
3-1.
You use
Infernal.
3-1 Infernal? All right. I like it. I'm here for it. If the Infernal comeback is real, then we're gonna see it. A game that might be weirdly close. Justice Shock. Noukky, I'm gonna start with you.
Justice Shock. Ooh, I give it to Shock. I think Shock got it.
I agree. I think it might be Shock in 5.
Ooh.
I think
that's
this might
spicy.
one go the distance. I think I do not really care for Shock's like team play right now. I'm really not big on the tanks. This is kind of, as much as the community is tired of me saying this, it's kind of a little bit of the proper show right now.
I think 3-1. I think Washington gets a map.
Would agree. Yiska?
I think if I learned anything about predding scores in Overwatch League is like if you're debating, like if you know who wins, then you should go 3-0. Like 3-0 Justice. Shock, of course.
I don't hate
You
that.
know what I
either.
just realized, Joe?
Huh.
Earlier when I was asking what I was when we were predding Infernal Spark, I was like, oh, hopefully I don't contradict myself with what I'm predding, and then I literally just did that because I picked
Nice.
Infernal in our internal ones for Charge.
We won't tell anyone, and we'll just produce the clip if it happens.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the beauty of post-production editing is that we can just always make you look smart. So,
Oh no, please
Trust
don't
in
make
that.
me look smart.
all right.
We're the real ones here. We don't need to fake anything and make mistakes.
We've got New York. We've got Las Vegas. I feel like this is a New York game. No.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
score? Is Vegas getting the first map?
No, I think this is I agree with what you're talking about when it's like if you think it's going to be like a strong showing, you might as well predict 3-0 because it's just about
50%
that time.
of the time you're right, yeah.
Yeah, it's a coin flip. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to go New York sweep.
Same.
Yeah. I can get on that.
Okay, next one is clear
Is it-
3-0, right?
Yep, that's
Yep,
Atlanta
yep.
over Valiant. That's not
GG's
even worth
pick it up.
talking about. Yep. See you next week. Hit the showers, boys. We've got Infernal Spark. A little bit closer. Another game that I think you
Cat.
probably adjust. Yiska, I feel like you've got some spice.
Shit, I really just want to be an asshole and just say 3-0 Infernal, but I don't believe it. But then I also think if I say
I don't
3-2 Infernal, I'm capping because this team is never going to win a map 5 ever. So I should probably say 3-1. I'm saying 3-1.
All right.
Let me get you on that Infernal Copium. That's good.
All right. We've got Infernal Copers. You know, fans, listeners, you know me. My Chinese Overwatch hearts beats for this team.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Spark. I'm taking Shy. I'm taking Leave. Who somebody, I'm just saying there's a certain co-host on this certain podcast who may or may not be German who said Leave was washed. I don't know about you. You don't look
Yeah,
washed.
in like when? Like 2019 or some shit?
I'm just saying maybe the charge is a little bit better than we thought. We'll see at midseason. Okay.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. I'm going to go Spark. We've got 2 Infernal Predators. Moving on to Charge Shanghai. I feel like this is just a charge sweep. No?
Yep.
All right.
Sign me up.
Sign her up. We've got London, Florida. Noukky's going to abstain. I'm going to say Florida as much as... See, this is the beauty of having Noukky on the show is that when we pred against her team, we don't have to get DMs. We won't just get like harangued and harassed. We'll just get harassed on the show. We'll get harassed for money.
I can't harass you right now for it. Like I have to wait
Sure
for the
you
result
can.
to harass you.
Based.
I respect that. That's fair. Yiska, what do you got?
No. You got to give a score.
I'll give London a map. I think Florida. I think people are a little too high on Florida. I think they are a good team. I think they're probably. It's tricky because I think we overestimated what Toronto was performing or what they were capable of. Sweeping them probably doesn't tell you too much. I think if anything, battling close with Gladiators, who are quickly climbing my rankings, probably should give you more confidence than anything from last week. That said, I am of the thought pattern that this meta is a little bit more open, and I do think that we could see some Junker Queen out of London, and that may catch Florida, on the back foot. So I'm going to give London a map. I'll say 3-1 Florida.
Here's a thought experiment for you before Yiska says anything. If you give us a map, are you also giving us push?
Depends on which push map. I was leaning more control. I think if you draw Antarctica, that one seems to be kind of just a really weird map that you can do a lot of different things. I think that's maybe a win condition. I do think that Chris and Commander X have a really good read on push still. So I don't hate that either, but yeah, I would say those are probably the two maps I would feel the most confident breading. Yeah. I'd say 3-1.
Okay.
Yiska?
I gotta say 3-0. It's
Toxic.
I gotta stick to the Preds. If you're determined, or if you think you know who wins the match, you gotta go 3-0. And I think I do think in general, if I source my brain in terms of what Scrimbucks or the power rankings I had, they really the only breakouts so far are Infernal losing, and then Titans that loss. Everything else just kind of happened. And against my better Scrimbucks judgment, I actually went Florida instead of Glads last week, which was dumb as shit to do.
True.
I knew it wasn't going to be the case, but
another good pred for me. Yes.
I definitely agree that Florida is a good team, but for the reasons outlined, I think they'll probably eventually get into the 6th or 5th slot in comparison. I'm a little bit concerned about my Uprising placement, even though I did correct it to some degree. But yeah, in general, I'm doing okay-ish in pick'ems. So Scrimbucks not dead yet, I would say. But yeah, 3-0
sure.
Florida.
All right, we've got Justice Houston. This one feels like another 3-0, if I want to be honest. I feel like Houston are probably. I agree with Jake. We had him on last episode. I think he said that Atlanta. I think he agreed with Yiska that Atlanta was probably a top team, and the only team that felt like they could rival them was Houston. Mm-hmm. I would tend to agree. And yeah, if this is if NA is really a 2-horse race at this point, I like Justice. I think they have a lot to improve on. I think my Alpha E stocks are paying off. I'm just cashing in. I got stock options. I didn't take a bonus, and I'm to the moon, baby. I got diamond hands with this kid.
Woo.
So as much as I think he is very good, and I think he is kind of leading this team, and I think that Flora has been kind of a standout performer from Pro-Am, it's not Fearless. It's not Pelican. It's not Violet, So I got to go Houston 3-0.
Yeah, same.
I'm joining the wagon.
All righty. We got wagon joiners. Shock New York.
This has a threatening aura.
It does. It really does.
Why is that? Elaborate.
Because, okay, actually, probably, if you feel like Shock is currently in a weak spot, then you probably should rather give it to Justice. To be that the game that they shit the bed. But I don't know, I'm kind of.
New York's the kryptonite?
No, it's it's a weird situation. I think New York is one of those teams that's just has weird uppercut potential written all over them.
Yeah.
I think they also have players like, especially someone like Fitz, who, when on form that day, can be very scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really concerned about. I'm not sure. Like I earlier said that they are still in hotels. I don't know that for sure for now, but I know that they changed locations for this year in terms of where the team is located, and like all of that is not without complications. And I'm a little
Sure.
bit scared. Like they soon have to get into form. Like it's honestly like pretty sad that a roster that on paper probably is tied pound for pound currently can't get the horsepower on the road.
Yep.
And like I don't think it's cope to say that a lot of this has to do with the living situation and with the practice situation.
Yeah.
So
Not at all.
100%.
yeah. But yeah,
No,
I'm going.
I believe.
I would. Yeah, I tend to agree.
I'm going 3-0 still, Shock.
All that good shit for nothing.
Talking about the whole adversity kind of thing, and I just gotta go 3-0. So
I don't hate it. I think that I tend to agree. Like if you are going to be, if you tend to agree that that could affect the mentals, the performance, yada yada yada, it's probably Justice who leverages that harder. I think New York has a little bit more under the hood, if we're going to stay with the car analogy, than I think I've even given credit for. I agree that I think Fitz is like kind of he still got it. I think it's not to the degree that I think everybody like remembers, like the Prophets duo. Like it's not that level anymore, but it's not anything to like kind of snob your nose at or kind of like not write home to mom about. So I think there is room for them to squeak a map. Maybe a control gets out of the woodwork. It's hard to even predict. It's hard to predict it's hard to like bet against proper.
yeah, definitely.
To try to like pred against Shock feels like a fool's errand at this point. I think to the Shock truthers who need a little bit more evidence to kind of like start worrying. I think if you're more agreeable to the sentence that the Toronto Defiant are underperforming and have not necessarily had a great start to the season, and you look at the season opener with the San Francisco Shock going to map 5 against a team that is fairly underperforming, I think that kind of like speaks volumes from their last few games where it's like they didn't look great. They didn't really care. They didn't look fantastic against Atlanta either. Obviously, Atlanta being a top team, but like Yiska said, like this is a team that probably pound for pound should be able to compete with them. It wasn't competitive. So something kind of needs to click. Maybe they get the wind in their sail this week and they can kind of coast into the last few games and get into knockouts that way. But it's not what we were promised. Let's say that. So yeah, I'm gonna go Shock. I'll go Shock 3-1. I give New York a map.
Yeah, I definitely would give New York a map as well. Maybe even two. It depends on how the game versus Justice goes. I think if Shock is struggling against Justice, it's kind of gonna snowball a tiny bit into the New York game.
Yep, would tend to agree again. Yeah, leave those open for adjustments once we see some of these teams first showing of the week tends to sometimes skew things, but we will see. Alrighty, Noukky, it has been a pleasure and an honor to bring you on episode 295 of Tactical Crouch.
Ooh.
This is my radio voice. Anything to say to the London fans?
Yeah, I wanna say a big thank you again for like staying together with us throughout seasons. We've had ups and downs over the years, but I'm really glad that we have the fans we do. You guys are critical sometimes, but we can deal with it. So, we're still trying to do our best, and with the resources that we're given. And thank you for not giving up on the team after a very, very bad season a few years ago.
That's true. Yeah, look at that bad season and look at the masterpiece that was put on display last year. So stick with them. Let the Spitfire cook. Yiska, anything coming down the pipeline for you, my friend?
All roads lead to London. Shout out to the young King Amo.
That's good. I gonna join the shout out for Amo.
There you go.
There we go. A legend. So, like, yes, there's Overwatch content in the pipeline, but I also have to, like, last weekend I was at the Berlin Major for Dota 2.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of impressions I got in terms of like comparison to what we are. Like, I was really like, of course,
I love
like
Dota events, man.
yeah, it's such a unique scene. It's so closed off, but so rich in culture. Like, I got to interview Slacks like moments after he just bit off the guy's patty, and put it back into the burger. Yeah. And like apparently, like he was eating it, and then like it lodged into his nasal cavity, and he just came out it was stuck in there, like, and yeah, I had an interview with him there. I'll repurpose that type of stuff. I think like what I want to do there is sort of, for now, my working title is psychoanalyzing Dota or European Dota. It's not probably going to be that title, but my idea is I was really intrigued by the culture of Dota in Europe, where dudes in a block of Team Liquid jerseys can sit there, see their Team Liquid outplayed in one play, and cheer for the play in that moment just because they like Dota. Okay?
Yes, that's the best thing about the Dota scene, like hands down. Like, I've been a Dota fan since like TI3, which was like, I want to say like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's wild.
And like the very unique thing about the Dota scene is like that the love for the game. Like, it's all about the game. It's not about the teams. It's not about the tournaments. It's only about Dota. Like, they appreciate the game itself. They don't hate on the game. It's like the Dota is what it is. They accept it that it's a shit show sometimes, and they accept it that it's like that one play can turn a game in like seconds, or that in some iterations of Dota there was like 190 long minute games at some point. But it's just such a great and old scene. I love it so much.
For sure. And then I have a second content piece that I've been working on, just like asking folks whenever I go to a non-Overwatch LAN event, just like why. Last year in Copenhagen, I asked CS guys why they felt like they had relative career longevity. One guy told me like maybe it's the rate of change that we experience, and like the diminishing returns of our practice is actually not as high as in others, because is much higher because like nothing changes really too frequently, so we don't constantly have to grind into the strategical knowledge. I talked to the Dota guys. The vibe I got from Dota people is they're essentially chess players. Like the way they talk about the game sometimes is super reminiscent of types of thinking that you will talk about in chess. It's like, oh, this is Kasparov against blah 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 from 1967. It's like, okay, like and then they will be like, yeah, during TI4, like blah 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 played that, and now it's once again meta, right? So Dota, like as they explained to me, is super about knowledge and not necessarily about grinding, new heroes out or whatever, right? It's just like bringing that back and understanding how certain stuff works. And like that's something I wanted to look at, like what's the makeup of a game and a scene that facilitates long-term career opportunities. I talked to Snaking from like last year's TI when
he was on our team. I managed him for a while.
Super nice guy. Like, funny thing
He's
is,
the sweetest dude.
I probably fucked up because like I talked to him, like you know how teams are, like they told me like X minutes. I already overdrew a little bit. I felt like, okay, at this point, let's hit stop. And then we talked for like 20 more minutes just because he seemed interested about the subject of like esports longevity and that type of stuff, right? Yeah. Super nice guy, super smart guy. And it's always super interesting to talk esports with people that have a different angle, right? And Like
And he's one of the newer Dota players as well. Like he just came into the scene, I want to say in 2020, 2019.
came back, right? Like I think he has like super, like he has super deep roots, but like also like this guy just, it felt like, so we were talking about the recent TI prize pool. And he said like, yeah, well, the Wealth tried out the value proposition there and blah, blah, blah. And like was super like receptive to whatever strategy Wealth employed there. While I didn't realize that he was currently arguing why he didn't make life-changing money, basically, right? Like, but because he won TI, I think he went on record saying he was just shy of $1 million that he made. Of course, still life-changing. It could have been 4 times that, right? Like, so it is like these people are super impressive, and that's just like what happens when you have a super long career. And also are already a little bit older. That necessarily, like, it would just be unfair for me to expect that kind of insight and maturity from 18-year-old Overwatch players. And our average is 20, right? But at the same time, like, it's like so interesting.
Such a young scene
to talk to these guys because they have a different viewpoint, and it's always interesting to sort of catch up. So there are several content pieces I'm currently workshopping, just like bridging the gap between the different esports, because I always feel like whenever I'm somewhere else, through the otherness of the other scene, I understand my scene better.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed when I did like TO work and admin work, because I was like bouncing between Overwatch, PUBG, Dota, Tiny Bit, Heroes of the Storm. Like there was always something new to learn on how different scenes work.
Yeah.
Again, mantras to live life by. Different points of view help you kind of appreciate and better understand your own. So
this is your mental health portion of technical.
Yeah, for real.
So.
I wish I could just do like my funny little bit where I do like sponsor plugs that just don't exist, but I feel like that would probably get us demonetized, so I'm just not gonna do that. The real ones no. Anything else, Yiska?
No.
Nothing? All right. I've got a lot of interviews coming. Not gonna lie.
Yes.
Yiska has 2 in his inbox. One's with Skewed. The other one is with.
That's coming tomorrow, or rather today. By the time you listen to this, you probably should have access to it, because once again, my guy's backing up my Preds, so I want this out.
That's what I got to do. I just gotta make sure that all the people I interview is just aligned with his predictions. All right.
I'm really sorry about like delaying this for you guys.
What?
Oh no worries at all.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it. I don't care. I care. Well, I mean, I feel bad for Yiska, but yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, I've got Skewed. That's just what.
Go for it. That's just the pain of like being in like very, very different time zones.
Yes.
That's esports.
Yeah. That is esports based. Got some interviews, some T2 players. Skewed's one, Lethal's the other. Super fun interview talking with him. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. But that is gonna be it for us. 296 coming next week. We may have a pretty interesting guest. We'll see. Guest nonetheless. We'll see you then. Adios.
Peace.
Bye.